Good afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Success Sadhana. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to our program today, where we will discuss growing in purpose, universal principles from the garden, with our speaker, Vaish, a veteran Bhakti yogi, author, and former monk. We have 14 members on Zoom. People are still dialing in. But thank you so much, Vaish, for giving us another talk on Success Sadhana.
Thanks for such a warm welcome, Jam. It's a pleasure to be back here. Great to see everybody. Welcome, Vasant, Hedy. Thanks for coming. Sharat, Satya, Olivia's here. Mariana, Joshua, Zyla, Tatagat, Nina. David's here. Hey, David. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Radhakripa. Let's see. Vaidarbi's here. Akanksha's here. Yes, so
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Welcome. Thank you very much for coming. Glad to have you. Hare Krishna Vaidarbi. Hale. Welcome. Yeah, a conversation this morning with my music teacher on the topic of raga and how we respond to sound vibration. It's as if the universe is a tapestry of sound. In fact, that's not an original phrase. A physicist once gave that. I'm just repeating it. And am I still audible?
Yes.
Okay, good. And there's a way in which the lifetime of any person is bolstered by sound or couldn't be degraded by sound also. Depends what kind of sound vibration we're connected with. The science of raga. There's a sublimity that we can extract, a kind of aesthetic that everyone's looking for. Interestingly, animals are attracted to sound also. Experiments I've seen recently where musicians go and sit near animals and play music. They tend to congregate and become fascinated by the sound. And sometimes even they're animated by it. So in the science of raga, there are various ragas which evoke emotions. Some of them regulate our minds and make us peaceful. So I'm going to play just part of a raga this to start off today. And you don't have to do anything but listen. Yes, JM?
Sounds good. Yeah, I was looking forward to this.
Okay, I'm always trying to read your countenance to see if anything needs to be adjusted. I think I'm still on music mode, so hopefully you can hear me speaking. I'll change back after I play this for you. This is a famous singer, Lakshmi Shankar, and she's singing a raga in Darbir. And so just take a moment to relax, but lengthen a little bit. If you want to, just close your eyes and let the raga enter your ears and leave all your troubles behind or any other ambitions or thoughts of what you need to be doing, and just relax.
जन्म मरण के साथी मेरे जन्म मरण के साथी मेरे जन्म मरण के साथी तुम देखो बिन कल ना परत है 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 जानत मोरी छाती रे मेरे जन्म मरण साथी मेरे जन्म मरण साथी तुम देखो बिन कल ना परत है तुम देखो बिन कल ना परत है जानत मोरी छाती रे मेरे जन्म मरण के साथी मेरे जन्म मरण के साथी
Oh, thanks for taking a few minutes to listen. So, one of the points of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the wisdom literature which directs us through the maze of this life to the ultimate goal is that as subtle beings, we crave beauty. And my teacher used to point out that the presence of green space around us, those who are expert designers and who are thinking about the consciousness of the public will put in parks, green space. There's a place in Delhi which is generally quite a frenetic environment. And some friends of mine live there, and the entire project was designed with lots of parks. There's a park every 3 blocks practically. And people generally walk around the neighborhood, and there are signs in the park that this is the lungs of your neighborhood. And when we're in harmony with nature, there's a sense of beauty. I was recently in a forest near San Francisco called Muir Woods. It's preserved after the great fire that burned down the whole city of San Francisco, and many of the trees were taken to rebuild it, but this specific area was preserved. And just walking through, being near streams, seeing the light come through the canopy above, and sometimes it's speckled, sometimes there's a shady place where certain kinds of plants like ferns grow. Hearing the sound of the water trickling, there's a natural sense of purification. In the Gita, Krishna talks about sattva-gun, or a modality in this world through which we can feel naturally satisfied. In fact, it's our natural condition to feel happy. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes awakening consciousness. And he says the first symptom is happiness. It's called prasanna atma. It means that you feel naturally happy. And it's not because you looked and saw that your stocks went up, or because when you see that, then you think, oh no, they're going to go down. And there's a way in which we're naturally happy because of what we are, not because of what we have. And after prasannatma, he describes a condition of, as he says, na shochati, na kankshati, which means we don't need anything. You've heard of retail therapy. People think, if I just go shop right now and I get something new, then I'll feel satisfied. Now, maybe you go to Amazon Prime and you know something's coming, so you feel a little expectant and happy. But there's a natural state, Krishna says, where there's no sense that I want anything right now. I'm good the way I am. And nor is there a sense of lamentation that I missed an opportunity, because one feels complete in that state. And then the third is quite interesting. It's a state of non-enviousness. Envy is a pervasive feeling in the world, not just among humans or collective humans in communities or countries or nations, but even amongst various species. They generally tend to stick together and claim territory. And this sense of proprietorship diminishes in a state of pure consciousness, or as a consciousness awakens, and one feels non-envious. Well, how to describe that? There's a sense of interconnectedness, and also that there's enough for every living being. As a friend of mine recently said, when you water the root of a tree, does the root keep the water? And then that was a rhetorical question, so he answered and said, no, the root doesn't keep the water. It gives it to all the leaves and branches and immediately distributes it, doesn't hold on to it. And in the practice of yoga, which means to reconnect with our roots. When we have a full sense of trust in the root system, that the more I give to my source, the more it's distributed to everyone. If I try to individually satisfy each person in my life, or even myself, I won't be naturally happy. There'll be something lacking. But if I water the root, and the root takes care of myself and everyone else, then there's no hesitation, nor do we have a sense that I have to compete with other living beings for scarce resources, which is the first line in the economics book I read when I took Economics 101. It's the science of scarce resources and how they're managed in human society. But for those who are awakening to pure consciousness, there's not only enough, they not only feel happy, but they don't envy others or compare themselves to others because they see that we're all interconnected. And the science of bhakti yoga is very much dependent on, or foundationally, it's comprised of taking in sound that is transformative. The meaning of mantra is that it's a sound pattern that will induce this awakening of our natural state. It's not something that comes from outside, it's something that's already there, but we are uncovered by the power of the sound. The reason I started with raga is I wanted to see if just hearing that small piece I played brought any sense, any feeling. Did you have any feeling you could describe of just an amazing process in itself? You think we're humans, therefore we could experience something and then try to describe it. And we may feel a deficiency when we try to describe beauty. That's what poetry's about. We try to describe something so that you're experiencing it in the moment as you're reading it, not objectifying it, trying to reproduce the feeling. My question to you is that small piece I played, which was a raga sung by a trained singer. Did it evoke any feeling or emotion or thought process? If you had one adjective besides amazing or beautiful, anything else you could use to describe hearing a little piece of music like that? Tathagata said soothing. Let me see what soothing means. Hold on. Soothing. Soothing means having a gently calming effect. It's interesting. Can sound have a gentle, calming effect? And apparently so, based on this anecdotal evidence that Tathagata felt soothed by hearing the music and perhaps calmed. Any other reactions? Calmness.
Yeah, Akansha just followed up saying calmness.
Calm. I'll tell you what it means. I'll tell you where it comes from. Late Middle English via one of the Romance languages from Greek, kauma, heat of the day. Not showing or feeling nervousness, anger, or other strong emotions. Has anybody here ever felt nervousness? No? Yes? I know you're answering, I just can't hear you. You don't have to unmute. Anger. Have you ever felt anger? Never? Darby's never been angry? Or strong, or other strong emotions. That should cover everything. Let's see. The absence of violent or confrontational activity within a place or group, the absence of wind to make someone tranquil and quiet. And so you felt calmness Akansha. And that's interesting, that from hearing a piece of music, you could feel calm. It's not necessarily that we feel calm, but by that we did. What else, JM?
SG said, engrossed, translation from Sanskrit word tanmay.
Oh, look at that. SG, thank you. Okay, let's see where it comes from in English. Engrossed, having all one's attention or interest absorbed by someone or something. Engrossed comes from Latin grossus, large. Engross from medieval ingrosso, wholesale. It means to be fully absorbed in something. It's very similar to, well, we got it here from SG, Tanmai. See where that comes from. Don't go away now. Tanmai. Give me the Sanskrit etymology. Give me the Sanskrit etymology. Tan means tut. It's a demonstrative pronoun, just like that, to point to something. But it means, in this context, the supreme source of everything. As this is Om Tad Vishnu, it means to point to that from which everything else is coming. And the source, the ultimate object of meditation. And Mai means consisting of, filled with. So Tanmai means completely absorbed in that. And there's another word in Sanskrit, D, D-H-I. Try saying that, D. And it means to have your consciousness fully absorbed in one thing. So there's many words like that in Sanskrit, like vish. Avesha means you actually enter into something. If you've ever looked at a painting or you were in a piece of music like we were and you entered into it and you're fully absorbed. It's an interesting study of our own consciousness that we can achieve such a state. There are other states of mind when we're thinking about many things at the same time. Bahushaka means our consciousness is many-branched. But we can come to a point of being fully absorbed in one place. And Radhakripa felt relaxed. Nina said, I heard recently music is spiritual. I was immediately reminded of the scriptures because of the lyrics of this piece of music. And Satya said, could not understand the words, but good listening. Well, yeah, Shabda is the prime method, which means through the medium of sound, one can be anavriti, which means uncovered. And you can experience your nature, which is happy, unencumbered by desires for anything else. One feels full. And also a sense of universality. You're not envious of anyone because you feel complete. What do you think? So this is the prime method of self-realization given by the Bhakti Yoga system. And if you incrementally introduce the concept of mantra, transcendental sound, into your environment and put yourself in a situation where you'll be enveloped by this kind of sound, then you'll notice a natural upliftment of your consciousness. You don't have to go to a mountaintop and fast for weeks on end. I don't know if you could find one that's not already occupied. I know that the first excursions to the Himalayan mountain top, what is that called? The highest one?
Everest.
Mount Everest. That used to be a singular achievement. Maybe one or two people had done it, but now it's so crowded up there that people sometimes get stuck during rush hour because everyone wants to say they went there. So one can achieve self-realization in gradual increments by increasing the amount of transcendental sound that one listens to. That's my preamble for today. And now I want to talk about spiritual practice. Now, without going to the slides, I'll just say that practice is amazing because in any discipline that we take up, at least I find it to be miraculous. I started studying a piece of music earlier this week with my teacher who I meet on Zoom. And at first I thought, as I usually do, that this is impossible. And this morning I was playing it and my teacher said, very good. And so I thought, how did that happen? Well, I showed up for it and I stayed there and I felt at times that I was stuck or frustrated, but I reviewed it again and again. And I recorded the whole thing. And I listened to myself from the first time my teacher was introducing it to me. And then as I was practicing, I was able to chart the journey from Monday to Friday. And when I was yesterday listening to my Monday practice, I thought, who is that guy? He doesn't know anything. And then gradually, by contact, I felt somewhat familiar. And so in the practice of, in what is called spiritual practice, in the beginning it's called Vaidhi. And that comes from the word vidhi, which means to be strict about your practice. And if you're strict in your practice, then by consistency in that practice, you'll notice transformation. Kind of simple concept, right? Everybody knows it, but how to apply it. That's what I'll talk about today, because I love talking about it. Okay, let's look at a slide or two, and then we'll open up for conversations. Ooh, I love this one. I love seeds of intention. I could even say intention is everything because, well, everything starts from an intention. Intention has the word ten. It's Latin. It means to stretch towards something. What do we want? What are we going for? And then there's this little sentence down here that said, every meaningful action starts as a fragile, time-sensitive seed. Or you could just say seed. Every action starts with a seed. So what is a seed anyway? Let's come back into the room and discuss that. Does anybody here know what a seed is? Can describe it? What's a seed? Thought in the mind.
Satya,
I want to hear some voices now. I'm feeling isolated. I'm getting a little shaky over here. Just try to articulate it. You don't have to give me anything about DNA inside, although I would like to talk about that. Hetty.
The thing that came to mind was just the beginning of something. A seed is.
I like that. It's the beginning of something. It all starts with a seed somewhere, right? Like years ago when I planted my garden, there's certain kinds of plants. I mean, my gardeners came from Berkeley, California, and they had all kinds of ideas about what I should plant. So it was a very eclectic garden. It's changed over time, still eclectic. But one of the plants they said is really great is tobacco. Because of the flowers. They're really beautiful. So over time, the tobacco plants were out. But every once in a while, anywhere in my yard, I'll see a little tobacco plant come up because the seeds are everywhere and it just takes time. They'll start somewhere and they'll go. David.
Yeah, what came to mind was potential.
Yeah, potential. Let's look that word up. Potential means having or showing the capacity to become or develop into something in the future. I like that because it's congruent with the idea of bhakti, that it's already there. It's already there within the heart. The potential's there, and then the stimulus awakens it. It's latent, and then it awakens. Lijay.
Hare Krishna. I was thinking of the word preservation, and that is because I planted some seeds a couple of years ago, and I probably planted too many. And in the past 3 years, in the same container, it just each year keeps popping up. And I never realized seeds are also preservation, because when environment is not ideal for them to come out this year, they have their mechanism to choose when they want to come out. So that's interesting.
It is very interesting. Comes from Old French preserver, from Latin preservare, pry before in advance, and severe to keep. It's as if everything's there, ready to spring forth at any time. So this is an important concept in the idea of karma. Karma is described metaphorically as the growth of a seed. A seed is planted and then it goes through stages. You may not even see all the stages until it manifests physically. And so one of the ways we can take on seeds which result in karma, which we can break down more, it comes from the root word kri in Sanskrit, which means to act. So why do we act the way we do? Why are we predisposed to various environments, types of art, music, environments, association, and so forth? And why do we work in a certain way? Well, the explanation of the Bhagavad Gita is because seeds, we've encountered seeds, they've been planted in us from our associations. And when they start to sprout, then we have a predisposition or an inclination to act in a certain way. So this word in Sanskrit is karanam, means cause. There's a karanam, there's a cause to everything that we do and the way we act. The thoughts that come up in our mind, they have a cause, and they start from a seed. And the verse I'm quoting from in the Gita says, Karanam guna sango. Sangha means to be connected with something or someone. So if you connect to certain kinds of environments and people, then you're going to get certain kinds of seeds planted. It's very subtle, but they go in, generally through the ear, and they end up in the heart. And I'm not talking physically, or if I am talking physically, it's subtle. And from there, they germinate and they grow, and then we might think, why am I in certain situations? So the thought continues in this verse, Sadasad, Yoni Janmasu. It said there's a source of their birth, a yoni, means like a womb. And Sadasad means good or bad. Whatever good or bad we have, it grew out of a seed, and the seed came from association. That's why we try to be deliberate in our associations, right? I mean, if you're not discriminating, if you're random about your association, you might get a random set of seeds that'll grow and be very confusing. I mean, why do people focus their attention, for instance, let's say you want to go to school, say, what do you want to learn? Well, I want to learn law. It's like, okay, you better get in that room there, because that's where all the seeds are for law. Or if you want to learn music, you go down the hall. And you're there with the musicians. Those seeds will be planted. In every case, the way we turn out and the kind of practice that we're able to persist in daily comes from our associations. That's why people get on a team or they get a coach. All that has to do with sangha or association. So just thinking about seeds, starting with that, I recommend get a seed and look at it and just meditate on it and think about what it is. I've done that before. Just look at it and think, what's inside there? Amazingly, if you go deeply within it. I'm reading a book right now, very interesting. I have to tell you about this. Don't mind, I have to look it up because I forget exactly what it's called. It's called Signature in the Cell. And this book was by Stephen Meyer. He's a scientist, molecular biologist, and he studies also the history of science, also teaches it. And his descriptions of DNA and the discovery of the codes, the double helix, and there's information inside there. That's quite enlightening. Within cells that we can't even see with our naked eye, there are codes, complex codes, and they determine the outcomes in the physical world. That's what runs it, according to their theory, the theory of DNA. So this is something I was talking to a friend about the other day. Interesting conversation. He was talking about sometimes in history there's an event that happens, could happen thousands of years ago. Like, there's a feud between dynasties and somebody's exiled, and then that feud continues and it gets passed down so many generations that in history it gets embedded. And then people have a natural disinclination towards other kinds of people or civilizations because it's practically part of their DNA. It gets embedded by association, by sangha, by seed form, and then there's this direction that we have to go because we're forced to go because of our association, because of what we've inherited. And this is karma. It forces us to go in one direction or another. Good news, there's a science behind it. If there was no science behind it, like Camus, he said, there's nobody home in the universe. Nobody's going to listen to you. And there's no purpose to life either. So I don't know where that leaves us. These existentialists and nihilists always confused me because why do you even talk about it then? But there's a more hopeful and intuitive side to us where if we just notice that nature is responsive. For instance, the body, if you study the body, it responds to us. If you get too hot, there's homeostasis and it starts to balance out. Everything balances out in nature as well. So we are in a cosmos. Cosmos means there's order to it. And therefore, one of the main sciences within the cosmos to engineer our, I don't know, that's kind of a weird word to use there, but to determine where we're going is the science of seeds. Be aware that there's a beginning to it. There's a potentiality to every thought we take in, every image that we gaze upon, the people that we most associate with, the music we listen to. What are we tuned into? These are all seeds and they're getting planted. And you may think, I didn't plant tobacco, or the next person who owns this house, they say, who planted tobacco here? I didn't do it. And somebody said, no, you must have planted it. No, somebody else did. Or you might have done it and then forgotten that it was even there. So this is, well, let me hear what you have to say about seeds. I want to hear more from your side I get excited about it because then I realize that if I'm careful about where I get my seeds, and I'm talking metaphorically about all causes, if I'm more deliberate, then I can direct my life in a particular direction if I'm a good gardener. Yes, Vaidarbi.
When I think about seeds, I think it's, as you said, we have to be very careful because every seed already has a code and we cannot change it. Even we take the seed of an apple, for example, and we want to get a lemon. Even we change environment and care and the way of care, doesn't matter. All the time we will get just apple, you know? So if we are listening to some kind of music, in the result we will get the plant of this music. So we have to be really
Brilliant.
careful before we do something.
Brilliant. I love that. And partly that's what Krishna's talking about in the Bhagavad Gita. He's informing us that there's a result to everything. It's a scientific presentation in a way, saying there are environments, there are seeds, there are that, and the result is determined by nature. So be aware of your environment, know how to associate, know how to take in good seeds. Hetty.
I wanted to ask her if you could clarify. So seeds have been planted in us by association, and then we have inclinations to act a certain way. Where do the inclinations come from, or is that also by association? Are the inclinations the seeds also?
So let me contribute to this
Yeah.
question because I was
Okay.
thinking. So taking the example with music and what we listen, that maybe the seeds are planted, but each of us is seed, right? Each of us has what we have. So the music and the other things and the association, those are the environmental factors. Like if you plant a lemon and you can put water or something else, that's not, you don't change the seed. So I've always thought about this, like every person is their own and you can put them in the same environment and everybody will turn out differently. So what is the seed and what is the environmental factors? This is just, I know that there is no simple answer, but I kind of disagree. Just because you listen to rap, you'll get like, anyway, I don't think so. I don't think, in my mind, the music or even other things, they do have effect on us, but the seed is in us. So if we don't change the seed, that it's already in us.
Uh-huh. Okay. So in the discussion on karma in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions that it's complex. Where one thing starts and another thing ends is difficult to determine. And he warns us against trying to trace everything back. We do it in a fundamental way to understand that there is a cause to that, but still, which came first, the seed or the tree? And, trees produce seeds, and seeds produce trees. And it goes in circular motion. So when did it start? And an even more important question in the Bhagavad Gita is, how does it end? And so, again, people have different reactions to different environments. For instance, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes how a person whose involvement with the world is enlightened isn't affected in the same way as people who are eager to embrace the world, enjoy it, to control it. What's the opposite? One looks at the world as paraphernalia, everything in it, for service to the Supreme, and also sees its connection to the Supreme. This is the example I've given previously from the Gita. Krishna describes a lotus flower, and it grows out of the mud, lives in the water, but it's not touched by the mud or the water. Being in the world but not of it is a common phrase. And Hetty, can you reiterate your specific question?
Yeah, it was just maybe to get a clarification on what you said a bit earlier. Seeds have been planted in us by association, and we have inclinations to act a certain way. But I wasn't sure if the inclinations come from those associations. Is that what you were saying? Or if that is also just elsewhere, sort of maybe what the person earlier was saying.
Yes, I was saying that they would come from that. In other words, when you associate with a particular environment or person, you'll notice that you will naturally take on the kinds of qualities that that person has. And Mariana was questioning that. Is it true in all cases? Well, a doctor may be in a hospital, but because the doctor is extremely careful to be prophylactic and make sure that anything he or she comes in contact with doesn't get infected by it. Rather, is there to treat the diseases and not get infected. That's why they're careful to wash their hands. They make sure they have hygienic practices. So there's a way in which some people move in the world in such a way, although they're integrated with it, they don't get infected by it. And beyond that, there's an important point. The karma can be overcome. This is true even in modern conceptions of a gene theory, that we may have a certain genetic makeup, epigenetics. There's an idea that even though you have a predisposition to certain kinds of diseases, for instance, it's in your DNA, if you adjust your lifestyle, it's possible the chances of your getting that may greatly reduce or become nil. Now, as far as karma goes, one of the main topics of the Bhagavad Gita is how to overcome it completely and rise above it. And there are various examples that Krishna gives in the Gita. One of them he calls Gyanagni Sarvakarmanam. So in this another metaphor, Jnana means knowledge and Agni means fire. So if you put the words together, you get Gyanagni. Everyone say it, Gyanagni. Gyanagni means the fire of knowledge. So he said, Gyanagni Sarvakarmanam Basma Sat Kurute. Basma Sat means ashes. So he says, when you become fortified with complete knowledge, it acts like a fire and it burns up your karma. But then there's even something deeper than that. Should I say something deeper, or this is not the time and place? No? Only JM said yes. All right, David gave a thumbs up. Brother Creep, a thumbs up. Still not a quorum, but all right. Deeper, here we go. Karma may be burned up, just as a field may be burned. But then with the next rain, somehow or other, it resprouts. If you've ever seen a forest burn down or a field burn down, and then a little while later, it just springs back. After a heavy rain or a rainy season, it comes back again. So there's this perpetual cycle called samsara. It means one thing flows to the next. That's the idea of seeds, trees, all continuously. Now, you may burn something, but then some remnant or the seed might have been protected from the fire by its shell, and then it comes back again. But then the deeper level comes through bhakti. And what it describes there is, although we may give up an activity, there's this very, very subtle desire to still enjoy it somewhere in our consciousness. And at some point, it's going to come back. And we may have had felt things like this in our lives where, have you ever rejected something and then found yourself embracing it again? I hope you say yes, because for me it's a common phenomenon. I don't like this, and it's like, oh, hey, I thought you didn't like that. May not be in 2 seconds later, but it could be a while later that you come back to it. So we fluctuate because of those subtle desires. But there's a deeper part of us, which is our pure consciousness, in which, when that pure consciousness comes in contact with its source, which is so overwhelmingly beautiful and fulfilling that we don't want anything else. And the subtlest of seeds that might pop up again is vanquished. Because, and here's how it's described in the Bhagavad Gita. There's a verse in which Krishna says, there are times in which you give up things that are not good for you. Vishaya vidivartande nirahara sadehina says, okay, you give them up, but you still think about them from time to time. Have you ever had that? You may have a moment of disgust where you say, never again. It's like, I'm out of here. And then, you're walking down the beach and you think, oh, yeah, maybe not so bad, or the thought comes in your mind, or you're just restraining yourself from something. Let's say doctor says you got to fast today until, tomorrow at 10 a.m. And you're thinking, okay, I'm not going to eat because the doctor said don't eat. Otherwise it'll ruin the test. But you're still thinking, God, I wish I could eat. So that's a state in the first part of the verse, Vishya vidivartante, nirahara sadehina. It's still in your mind. It didn't go away even though you gave it up. Rasa varjam parodhyasya param drishva navartate. He says param drishva, but para means something far superior, unimaginably superior. And drishva means to see. When you see something that's way better, then you just drop it. It's like if you ever been, somebody's in a relationship and they say, oh yeah, what happened to so-and-so? It's like, yeah, I moved on. I don't even think about him anymore. I have a much better relationship. Only on a permanent basis. So there's a part of us that hankers for complete fulfillment. And when we're able to taste that from the practice of bhakti, that's what the practice of bhakti is. It's so aesthetically pleasing, and it's pleasing on, it's the fulfillment of our desire for love. When that's connected, then it's not even a consideration. Even if there are other desire seeds that sprout, we don't engage with them because they're insignificant. They don't even mean anything to us. An amazing statement in the Gita that says, let's see if I can remember it. I was trying to remember the Sanskrit. Naiva kinchit karomiti, here's a long verse. Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tatvivit shrinvan pashan shrinvan shvishan jigran ashan gachan shubhan shvashan pralapan vishwinan grinan unmishan nimishan napi indriyan indriyateshu vartanta idarayan. This is describing somebody who's already tasted something superior, and then they see how the interactions their senses are going through in the world. They're picking up things, they're eating things, they're digesting things. Those are just like another entity doing it. It's like if you turn on your washing machine and you hear it going through cycles and it goes, yeah, it sounds like it's spinning now. So the relationship with the physical world, although they're moving in the world, they're not connected to it consciously in a way that they would be drawn to it because they're no longer interested. Okay.
It's
Yes.
also the effect that I often think, like, you try to do the best thing, you do the best thing, but you have only limited information. So at the end, like your example, love or whatever, you pretty much at the moment when you go through this, you're absolutely sure that this is the best path, and just like several months or years down the road, discovery is the biggest mistake you make, and then you beat yourself up. But the thing is that you made the best decision with the information we have, and this is very unfair because we are going through the life half blind, and we only learn later on. And even if you learn from experience, there are other changes in the world. So it's a lot of randomness there. So no matter what you can do, you don't know from where you can hit you down the road.
That's true. And in a closed system, when the same information is being recycled, then we're basically stuck in one paradigm. And that's where the idea of transcendental sound comes from, Shabda. Shabda Pramana, or Shabda itself, is from outside the closed system of this universe. We need a sound intervention. And so the spiritual theory is that this sound comes from beyond the closed universe. And that sound creates an intervention in our lives. Golokera Prema Dana Harinama Sankirtan means the sound, the spiritual sound that we create when we're practicing bhakti yoga. It's not from this realm. Tadvag Visargo. Visarga means the world that's created and then destroyed, created and destroyed, created and then destroyed. And we have bodies that are created and destroyed over and over and over and over again. And we're caught in that cycle. So what do we need? We need an intervention, something to flip the switch out of that flow. And it comes from sound from beyond the Visarga, the normal creation of the world. And so one may say, well, how do I experience it? Well, it's available. It's been imported. And for instance, Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, it's a sound vibration. Language is just speech abstracted so that we can reconstitute it, and at any time you can carry it around. It's kind of an interesting concept. And so if for instance, if you read the Bhagavad Gita, then that's the instruction manual. If all else fails, read the directions, right? So the universe comes with directions of how to harmonize and also how to go beyond it. There's Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, means there's a system to live in harmony. When you live in harmony, then you get abundance. Then you try to enjoy, and then you want to give it all up. That's called the normal cycle. But for those who realize that just goes on and on and on, an endless cycle, and you want to go beyond it, you get these wisdom literatures like the Upanishads that say, wait a minute, hold everything. There's another way to look at this. You have nothing to do with the world. You're from a completely different realm. And you made a wrong turn here. I mean, what if you tried your best to nest here in the material world? What if you did everything you could? Okay, you ate the perfect diet. You did everything financially responsible, in a financially responsible way, and you were just a good person. How long would you last, approximately, Satya, in this world? In number of years?
Less than 100 years.
Yeah. And what's the death rate? It's still about the same as it was 1 billion years ago, which is 100%. So it's the material world, the realm we're in now is impermanent, but it's not meant for permanent habitation. Just like an Uber is not your car. If you jump in the Uber and you think, this is my new car, the guy's going to get, would you just get out? I don't care what rating you give me, just get out. And so the world we have, with Satya Prabhu just said, we have 100 years or fewer years than that. It's not but you can flip the scenario here. That's the idea of sages and yogis. They go like, oh yeah, we got the scenario wrong. This world is not to try to nest and stay here forever. You're going to get washed away one way or another. But you can transfer yourself. It's a transfer station. And so having that intention is really important. And you get the clarity about that, for instance, from Bhagavad Gita. It brings that Jnana Agni, the fire of knowledge, that burns up all our misdirected intentions. Okay, let's look at another slide, Jam, or I'll just Oh my God, I almost did it. I almost bantered through the whole hour. The drip system, where are we now? Seeds of intention on mine. What do I have here? Dwindling intent. Well, this is just to say, and I've talked about this before, I love the concept, dwindling intent. I got it in an accounting class, the law of diminishing intention. The longer you wait to do something, the less likely you are to take it up. So don't delay. The next one is very important, is a drip system. You have to build systems. This is the yoga practice. Build systems into your life so that they're always at hand, and embrace the process. One of my caregivers, you know, how I depend on for a lot of things, he says that's his mantra, embrace the process. And then regular inputs, steady growth. Remember, what you put in, it's scientific. Feed your ears, put in transcendental sound. Best fertilizer is a gardener's shadow. Means if you're looking around your garden, giving love to your plants, they're going to do really well. So you have to examine your life regularly and find out, what could I be doing better? And just improve it. That's fun. That's what fun looks like, to me anyway. Design your life and keep growing. Okay, that's it. And I made it under an hour. Thanks everybody for the time to discuss. And I suppose homework, get a seed, put it on your desk, get a little seat for it and put it on there and say, who are you? Reveal your mysteries to me. And remember that everything we do or say is consequential in the human form of life. We're fully potential in the form we're in right now to grow in a certain way. And if you think about it carefully, if you study the wisdom literatures like Bhagavad Gita, then you can highly intentional, you can develop a drip system and make sure that you're making conscious, deliberate improvements every day. Then it flips everything. Well, JM, thanks for inviting us all here for this little conversation, and look forward to keeping it going sometime soon. And thinking of an appropriate way to say goodbye to everybody. And what really comes to my mind is our friends in the Himalayas, who, when they see each other at the peaks, raise their hands high in the air and they say Hari Bol. There's a very, like a thunderbolt of sound. It means keep the transcendental vibration going into your ears. Charlotte's already doing it, so I'm going to do it too. Hari Bol!
Haribo.
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 Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.